You have Youngstown, Ohio, Gary, Indiana, Scranton, Ohio. You had, I think this is Scranton, Ohio, because there is a Scranton, PA, but I'm pretty sure it's Scranton, Ohio. You got, the rubber plant in Los Angeles. You had, even in Trenton, New Jersey, you had a bridge that said "We make what the world takes." In Camden, you have, like, if you go into Camden, you can see the abandoned factories. You can literally see the abandoned, empty, hollowed out factories. You can see that. And if you go back and you look at pictures of Camden, New Jersey before 1967, it's booming town, booming. You know, I grew up in New Jersey, and it's funny when you come across. I grew up in the suburbs, by the way, mind you. It's funny when you come across white people who grew up in the suburbs and whatnot, and you talk to their parents, and you're like, man, where'd you go to high school? And they're like, oh, I went to Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson. I'm like, that's one of the worst high schools in the state of New Jersey. It's in the ghetto. But then you forget that Camden, New Jersey used to be this predominantly affluent white community. That's what it was in the 50s and in the 60s before the 67 before the race riot. When black people were trying to integrate and white people were resisting and everything. And that was the biggest lie for black people in terms of integration, because black people, it's like we integrated semi-socially, but what integration should have really been about is economic integration, and it wasn't about economic integration. You can't have social integration without economic integration. You can't have social integration and white people way up there and black people way down at the bottom. It's not going to happen. It's totally not going to happen. And again, the children who grew up in I'd say from the 80s onward, which is the people who are committing the violence that we see now, the people who grew up in that, you know what I mean? They're not about kissing white folks' ass. They're not about, trying to be that good little obedient Negro because they saw the previous generations do that and get completely shitted on. Go ahead and find me, go back to the 40s, 50s, and 60s and find me black people without their pants sagging. Go ahead and find me that. Find me any photos of black people that aren't well dressed in black and white. You're not going to find that. Okay, black people were trying their best to be everything that white people wanted them to be, and they still got rejected. So now, in the more modern era, for I'd say 80s and up, the black youth have rejected it. They've rejected trying to appease white people or appease a white standard and whatnot. And then white people use that to reinforce why they don't want to hire them, or why they don't want to do this, or why they don't want to do that, or why they don't want to, afford them any type of opportunities to get on their feet. That's why, it's funny because it's like white people do that, and that only exacerbates the problem. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying what African Americans or young African Americans are doing is right, but I understand it. I understand why they reject the system. They just sit there and watch some black person kiss white people's ass for 40 years and have nothing to show for it. You know what I'm saying? Fuck you. That's the attitude. So, a lot of this culture, if you look at the African American, it's based on not having resources. It's based on not having, wealth. And they're adjusting to it. And the culture and the crime and everything that you see, that's what exists. And all you're going to have to do, if nobody's going to address the economic aspect and the jobs, which again, white people control all the jobs, okay, if they're not going to address that, then essentially it's just going to be this way. That's just the way it is. It's just going to be this way, and it's going to get worse. And white people are going to have to take their tax dollars and make more prisons. You know what I mean? Either that, or try to send all the Africans back to Africa, or do like the Auschwitz and the Holocaust, which I'm sure the white supremacists would want, and kill all the black people. Okay? If you're not going to assimilate African Americans into your society, then what you see is what you get. Okay? If they don't have the same opportunities and the same gainful employment, and white people like to play this game like, They play this game like, the opportunities are there. Black people just don't grasp them. You know, and I'll admit, in a very small percentage of the situations, that may be the case. Okay, but this stuff is so big and so systemic. Okay, and it's already been proven, the disparities in employment and things like that. White people can't stand on that. They try to stand on it. They can't stand on that. They control all the opportunities, regardless of whether an African American is educated or not. They control all of the opportunities. Okay, and it's they're not, even for African Americans to create their own opportunities. First things first, they're going to need gainful employment. They're going to need to work together. They're going to need to take that money and then go off and establish businesses of their own. So essentially, what you're looking at is you're looking at a transfer of wealth from the white community, and I'm not saying for free, for work, obviously, but you're looking at a transfer of wealth from the white community into the black community. There's no getting around that. Somehow, some way, you're going to need wealth, whether it's business loans or whether it's gainful employment. After, obviously, African Americans get the education for whatever employment it'll be. But again, not everybody else, and not everybody is cut out for an education. Not even white people. Okay, you got all type of stuff that goes on with white people, with nepotism and who and you were my frat brother and everything. It has nothing to do with whether a white guy actually has the skills or something or not. White people seem to understand he's a young man, he needs gainful employment to support his kids and his family, blah, 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 blah. Okay, here's the job. We'll teach you how to do it on the job. Bam, there you go. Okay, with African Americans, it's, is he really qualified? And we don't know if he's qualified, so we don't know whether he can hire. It's a whole bunch of bullshit. But with white people, it just happens. And I'm saying, obviously, all groups are going to act like that internally. But African Americans started with a disadvantage, came up through a disadvantage, and our little attempt to try to join white people has done nothing but hurt us. It's done nothing but hurt us, because now we got nothing, because we put all our eggs in one basket and we were like, oh, kumbaya, and we're all one, and look at Michael Jackson's up there singing with Aerosmith, and Run DMC doing the same thing too. Oh, racism is over. But it's not over. All white people did was it's underneath the rug. Now racism is just more subtle. You know what I mean? And be it that you are a Republican, you already know how white people feel. I mean, a lot of it came out in your video, but I'm saying you already know how even people who go even beyond what you said feel. You know what I'm saying? And those are the people that hold all the opportunities. So to sit there and say, that it's not us, it's black people holding themselves back. I'm like, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. We have a lot of problems in terms of working together. We have a lot of problems in terms of even those who have the resources in the black community wanting to do anything. Because a lot of them have basically internalized the same attitudes about the African American community that you have, because they don't have an understanding of what's going on. You know what I mean? They were born in it. They got out. They got lucky. They got an opportunity, and like you said in your video when you were talking about the girl, and I hope she never goes back to the ghetto. Well, if every black person that gets an education, which is only 20% of the people there, if they all said the same thing, then how would you change the condition of the community if everybody who has the means to actually, or the ability to actually do something or teach the people in there, leave? You said in your video, they don't have role models. Well, but then you said in your video, well, I hope she leaves and never comes back. And I'm like, well, which one is it? Because those two things blatantly contradicted each other. You can't have role models if all the role model types are leaving, and then you're co-signing and putting a signature on them leaving and never looking back. Because it's a cesspool, and those people just need to just be in the cesspool. And I'm like, well, then I don't see the point in complaining about the state and the condition of the cesspool, which, every time there's something good there, every time a rose grows out of the concrete, you pluck it, and then you say, here, go into the white community, which already is like a rose garden. You get what I'm saying? So, anyway, that's all I got to say. I don't even know if this is going to upload because it's too long. I'm going to have to cut it up.